We have with us here today the Center Square's D.C. Bureau Chief Sarah Roderick-Fitch. She joins us to share her reaction to President Trump's State of the Union. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so in this address, we saw President Trump cover a wide array of topics, going from the economy, immigration, AI, insider trading, as your story reports, calling Democrats, crazy, aiming a lot of things at Democrats for allowing, as he says, open borders, high inflation, skyrocketing healthcare costs, and at some point calling out SCOTUS for their decision on tariffs. Tell us a little bit more about this and the environment that you saw in the room last night.
It was quite the show. As President Trump is, he is quite the showman. As you know, I've been in the room with him quite a bit to see some of this. So he did break the record for the longest State of the Union address in history, which is really actually no surprise. I was thinking it was probably going to be going over 2 hours. But yeah, he covered a lot of ground. About actually over a month ago when he actually addressed us in the press briefing room on the anniversary of his inauguration. And he went through about 31 pages of all of his accomplishments in this past year. So he had quite a bit of ground, like I said, to cover. It was an interesting time. There were about over 70 Democrats who boycotted the event last night. They were in they were either other events or they just didn't show up. And then there was quite the scene going on inside as well. But the president certainly knows how to, he knew how to play it up. At one point, it was an interesting moment. He sort of brought out the USA Olympic gold medalist team, the hockey team. They came out. He just said, "Hey, come on out." And it was a big moment, big scene for them to come out. They got a lot of applause. A lot of Democrats sat down. But yeah, the president, he definitely wanted to cover, he needed to hit on economics. As the Democrats, as we're coming into this midterm year, the Democrats are pushing affordability as one of their top issues. So he hit on that. Also, one of his big things is immigration. And he hit home with that. And he called out the Democrats for that as well, for not supporting some of that and saying, hey, you're prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens. That got a huge reaction from Republicans, while most Democrats sort of just sat there stoically. It was very interesting, but he did have a couple interesting ideas too that he proposed. There was a lot of stuff. Like I said, it was over an hour and 40 minutes that he covered. So there was a lot of things that he was able to sort of bring about. Like I said, really over the past year, he has been going nonstop. As we know here in Washington, it's been crazy. We're like, okay, maybe just take a vacation. The man does not sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not a dull day in DC for you, Sarah. Like you said, he talked a lot about different things, but I think for our audience, we want to focus on, the taxpayer angle, what is impacting our audience specifically around the country. First, he highlights that this is the golden age of America. He said we're back a bit bigger and better than ever. And I think Trump's obviously, like you said, going to talk for a long time on all the great accomplishments that he pointed out. We have a couple clips that I would love your reaction from. He proposed giving private sector workers across, access to federal style retirement plans with this $1,000 match, because as he says, these are, forgotten Americans. So here's Trump announcing that.
Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It was very interesting. It's sort of similar to his Trump account proposal, which he introduced recently, which is for children basically under the age of 18, and encouraging people to starting out with $1,000. It's started by the Dells, and it is, sort of $1,000, and then you can kind of add to it and basically grow wealth. So I think it's probably off that. However, we don't really know any details on that still. I'm sure he's going to, in typical Trump fashion, will be having some sort of big event that will unveil the details of it. But we are not really sure of exactly how that's going to work. Where that, he said $1,000 of funding. Where's that going to come from? He's often talked about, some of the tariff revenue. Where's that going to be coming from? That'll be interesting to hear him, some of those details coming out, in the future. But I think that's really kind of an interesting thing, especially hitting out again. This is a midterm year. This is very important for Republicans and Democrats, and I think he's trying to hit at the middle class or the working class who don't have that safety cushion, and also kind of people who are worried about Social Security. I think this is kind of hey, okay, what's going to happen with Social Security? Hey, there's this other extra thing here. Is it sort of going to be like Social Security, or is it not going to be? It'll be interesting to see when those details evolve. But we really, like I said, other than him sort of announcing it, we really don't know much more than that. I think it'll be a fascinating thing. But it sounds like it might be, like I said, maybe mirroring some of the Trump accounts.
Yeah, and just like you said, the Trump accounts for children, that is not going to be launched until July of this year, hitting the 250th anniversary of our country. And so, yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think for the administration, they're excited for that announcement. And so we'll see how that will impact the taxpayer and American citizens. Kind of going along with that idea for costs for American citizens, the president announced that he is requiring AI tech companies to build their own power plants, right? Addressing the electricity costs. So love to get your reaction to this clip of him saying that.
Many Americans are also concerned that energy demand from AI data centers could unfairly drive up their electric utility bills. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that I have negotiated the new Ratepayer Protection Pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before.
So I think the big question here is, this is a lot of future seeking, right? Things that they're going to do that might have impact. And, President Trump within the State of the Union has talked about stuff that's happened in the past year, right? His statement of inflation going down, gas prices going down, taxes going down, tax on tips from the One Big Beautiful Bill. Sarah, what's your reaction to this? And do you think that, this is reaching for the stars, or are we actually going to see some practical return on investment?
I think it's a very interesting, very, very interesting thing. And it's especially here in Virginia. Virginia has the most data centers by far than any other state. And this has been an issue for a long time, is energy. And Virginia imports like a mass amount of energy from other states because they just don't have enough energy. I think it'll be interesting to see how this is going to be met. I think he kind of proposed something to the Democrats too, is like, okay, are they going to get behind this? Be interesting to see again, what kind of energy that's going to be. Is it going to be, modular nuclear plants? In what form is this going to be? But I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people because this has been a concern, not just Republicans and Democrats. Again, here in Virginia, just as an example, it's sort of a bipartisan issue for taxpayers, is that there is a lot of concern about these, about the impact of these data centers, not just in order of environmentally, but also, their water and then power usage, and obviously having come from the same pool as everybody else. So it causes, hey, it's warning. We've been seeing warnings. It's going to be skyrocketing cost here in Virginia for energy. So that's a major issue. And like I said, it is a bipartisan issue that has been a concern among voters from Democrats and Republicans about these data centers and how much energy they really, it's their energy. They need a lot. There's a lot of power, to run these data centers. It's quite a bit. And so it is kind of an interesting thing. I think it will be, again, I think there'll probably be some fights, and who knows how long it will take to get these up and running. I think some of these don't take as much time, but I'm sure in plenty of these states, there's going to be some, there will be probably some issues that he's going to run into, because sort of the environmental impact, they're going to be looking at that. There's going to be a push for renewable energy. But as we know, probably in the renewable energy probably won't be able to kind of keep up with that pace. So what kind of it's going to be. So it'll be interesting to see where that comes from. But I think that probably did hit home with a lot of people as going, yeah, well, if we're going to have these data centers, then we need to have, the energy. Then they can't be drawing off the same grids as, residents or small businesses or whatever, because it's costing them, it's causing the rates to go up. And we've seen it here in Virginia, like I said.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned it's a bipartisan issue, because it seemed like a lot of things President Trump said was not bipartisan, right? So I'd love to get your thoughts on, how did the Democrats respond, right? There was a lot of cheering, a lot of standing ovations on the conservative side for President Trump, for all the Republicans, and it just seemed like there were crickets on the other side. Post State of the Union, what have some Democrats said?
Oh yeah, there was, like I said, there was already a lot of people protesting, a lot of Democrats were protesting this. And the president did, he posed a lot of things. I think he was sort of setting things up to, in a way, some of his questions to sort of get the reaction and rise and see how the Democrats react. Just kind of showing, hey, they don't really want to work with us. And I think he was definitely, there was that one point where he was talking about the citizens, about, do you stand with American citizens over illegal aliens? And a lot of Democrats just sort of sat there, while the Republicans, it drew a huge reaction from Republicans of standing, a long applause, and the president saying, hey, shame on you. So the president was definitely trying to get things. And I think, again, this is sort of setting this up. Not just the State of the Union is impacting on his past year, but also it's moving forward for the midterms. And so he's trying to show, I think, the voters, and trying to be able to use some of these clips as basically ads to go into the midterms for some of the Republicans, saying, hey, they don't want to work with us. These should be bipartisan issues. And they have, as he calls it, Trump deranged syndrome. He's, that's his thing, is he calls it Trump deranged syndrome, that they just don't basically want to work with him. But there was points, though, that he did get some positive reaction. One of the things was from the Democrats. I saw Elizabeth Warren, and she stood up and actually applauded when he was talking about insider trading, banning that in Congress. There were a lot of Democrats, like I said, that stood up and supported that, which was really interesting. So he did hit on some things that really should, be getting support from both sides. And that was certainly one of them. I think that was kind of a moment that was sort of overlooked, but it's a very important issue for both Democrats and Republicans. Again, very bipartisan issue.
Yeah, and just like you said, this is probably the longest State of the Union address. So a lot was covered. And, while there was some division, obviously, from Democrats and Republicans, there's some bipartisan issues that are agreed upon. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming days the responses from many congressional members on the left side. Well, thank you so much, Sarah Roderick-Fitch, our DC Bureau Chief, for coming on today and talking to us about this.